I'm aware that this video is late. I know that it's late. There is a decent explanation for that. One, I'm not very good at games. Two, I like to take my time with games. I don't sit there for 8 hours playing a game, and if I do, then I usually don't get very far because I'm too busy dying in the game. So that's my explanation for why I haven't reviewed Sony's Spider-Man for PS4 sooner. But anyway, I'm getting to it now because I just beat it this morning, and I loved it. I really did. It's probably up there in my top 10 favourite games. It's definitely my favourite superhero game. But yeah, this game was surprising because I thought it was just going to be an average, probably get a few hours of enjoyment out of it, and then the story would be subpar. For the most part, the story was a bit subpar. There were some moments that I really loved, and there were some moments that did drag on a bit. And there was some moments that were a bit of filler. But yeah, all in all, the story was pretty solid. But there are moments that I will get into later that I didn't like. The combat is very Arkham City, Arkham Asylum-esque, but without the flowiness of that. You don't automatically jump onto the next enemy. You don't automatically start attacking someone else when that's done. As soon as you press the attack button, you won't jump into the fight. You will maybe start attacking the air. So that I kind of like that more. Like that when you are in combat and when you're doing really well, you feel like a badass. But when you're not doing so well, it's kind of frustrating because you get into it's very rhythmic. You get into the rhythm of being good, and then you're good for the whole fight. You get into the rhythm of being bad, and then and then it's very difficult for you to pick back up after that. And there are some moments, not very many in the main story, but there are a lot of moments in side missions and in the bases and in the Kingpin Towers where it's a lot more difficult because there are a lot more enemies to deal with. They start throwing more difficult enemies at you, you're fighting a heavy, and then there's rockets being fired at you, whilst there's snipers, and there's also the whip guys, and there's everything being thrown at you at the same time. It's just too much to deal with. It's not impossible, but it's also not easy. It takes a lot of management, and you really need to be skilled with the combat system and the dodging as well. The dodging is probably the circle button is your best friend in this game because it's how you dodge. And allow me to say this now, enemies when they hit you like a truck. So you don't want to get hit a lot. So that circle button is going to be your best friend. You're going to want to marry the circle button when you're done with this. I'm going to talk a little bit about boss fights now. There aren't that many, but, well, there are secret bosses. There's Tombstone and there's Taskmaster. Taskmaster is the more difficult secret boss to get up because you fight him twice. The first fight is easy to get to because you just need to do half of the Taskmaster things. The second fight is a bit more difficult because you need to do all of them. Tombstone is a little easier to do because it's a clear mission-based thing to get to him. The fight with him isn't that great. It's just you punch him a bit, you put toxin into him, and then you punch him a bit more. It's just like you're fighting a regular big enemy. But the other fights are really good. The other non-secret fights are good. Even the Taskmaster fight is pretty good because he's learning your skills. He knows what you're going to do, so you have to think of different ways to beat him each time. So that's a fun thing to do. That's a fun boss fight. The rest of them are pretty fun as well, apart from the first boss against Wilson Fisk, which is pretty annoying because he has like 5 henchmen after him, and you've got to focus on webbing him up, and then there's henchmen that the webs will go to anyway. And the final boss is a little underwhelming against Dr. Octopus. He's a little underwhelming. The rest of the fights are pretty fun. But the first and last boss, the first boss is a little too annoying against Kingpin. And the last boss against Dr. Octopus is just a little underwhelming, a little too easy for my taste, and a little too repetitive for my taste as well. It's good with the cinematics of it, but the fight itself and the actual like game aspect of it left a little to be desired. Everything else was great. I loved the story behind Doc Ock. I loved how they built him to be a sympathetic character, almost like almost like they replaced Curt Connors for Doc Ock to fill this role. That usually it'd be Curt Connors who would like fill this role. I liked that. I liked the dynamic there, and it led for a really tense conclusion that nearly it hits you right there. Like, I've seen people, and even I almost cried at the ending of this. It was a very, very good, very tear-jerking ending. I'm not going to spoil it too much, but let's just say someone dies that you won't expect to die. But everyone's beaten the game already, so they already know that a certain important character dies. There are also stealth sections, not only with Spider-Man, but with Miles Morales and with Mary Jane as well. I liked some of these. There were 2 standout ones. There was one where you're playing as Miles, and it's in a shipment yard. You have to hide from Rhino, and Rhino's destroying the whole shipment yard. That was a great stealth mission, because it felt really tense, and it felt like you were actually being chased. It felt like there was actually danger. The other one was when Mary Jane was trying to hide from Tombstone, like, for the same reason. When there's something that you're trying to like get away from or hide from, that's cool, and that's probably the best part of the game, when the game is in those really tense situations. Also, when the game is doing the big action sequences, like in the demo or in the raft. Like the demo, when the demo was set in the construction site, that was a really cool scene where you're chasing after the helicopter and all that, and the raft as well when all the villains come out. Those are probably the highlights of the game for me. And probably the attack on City Hall, that was a highlight for me as well, because it just showed these guys aren't messing around. These guys actually, they will kill people, and you see them kill people, and you see like dead bodies like sprawled around. The reveal that Martin Lee is Mr. Negative, I feel like that could have been done a bit better. It did kind of just go from, oh, Martin Lee's a good guy, to, snap, no, he's Mr. Negative. It did come out of the blue. Like, you knew something was off with him, and they did show it in the trailers, but it did kind of come out like a bit too quickly, if you know what I mean. You didn't get to see like a build-up of Mr. Negative being like becoming more villainous as the game progressed. But yeah, the rest of the game I really loved, and there are a lot of collectibles, of course, and the suits. There's actually incentive to get different suits because they have different powers, they have different abilities, they have different assigned things. Like the Spider-Punk has like a radial effect with the guitar. The classic suit has like a web blossom. The Iron Spider from Infinity War, that has like the 3 tendrils that will attack enemies. The Stark suit from Spider-Man Homecoming, that has a little spider bro who like attacks different who attacks the enemies for you. Some of the effects are like game-breakingly good. I think the best one is the one that you're given at the start of the game, with that allows you to refill your focus, which allows you to heal and do special attacks. Which, I mean, that you're given that at the start of the game. You don't have to do any work for that. You just have to beat the tutorial, and then you're sent on your way with the best suit in the game, probably. But yeah, I really liked the game. I really liked the ending. I liked the beginning. I loved the middle. I like the amount of stuff that you can do. It's just a great game, but it is repetitive, and it is repetitive in nature, and there is a lot of stuff that you'll be doing over and over again. Like the collectibles, there's 55 backpacks that you have to find around the city, and the city's big. The city's huge, so you're going to be searching for a good few days for all these backpacks. There's also pigeons that you have to chase, which is mind-numbingly boring, and it's like paint drying. The Fisk hideouts, the demon hideouts, and the Sable hideouts, and the Sable prisons, those are pretty fun, but they're wave-based, and they take a lot of time, and they are very monotonous and repetitive, and they throw a lot at you. So a lot of those are probably a lot harder than the actual main story missions. And then you have the actual side quests, like taking down Tombstone, finding different people around the city, and then there's just the normal crimes, which just pop up sporadically, and then you have Black Cat stuff, like you have to take pictures of Black Cat things, which are like the Riddler trophies, just there's not as many in this. But yeah, the story is the best part of the game. The combat and the cinematography is probably also up there as the best part of the game. The rest of it kind of is a bit repetitive and monotonous. And I'm sorry to say that, but it is repetitive and monotonous. But those tweaks can be ironed out in the sequel, which the game definitely does set up for. It even sets up for like a majority of the villains that are going to be in there. Like, the game pretty much says Lizard and Mysterio, they're going to be in the game. Green Goblin's going to be in the game. Even Venom's going to be in the game. The game pretty much tells you that. But the rest of it, who knows? But yeah, I personally love the game. If I were to rate it now, I would probably give it, personally, an 8 out of 10. It's great, has some great cinematography, but when it's good, it hits the marks and it hits them well. But when it's bad, it's down, and it's pretty bad. It's pretty repetitive and monotonous. But the good really does outweigh the bad in this one. And yeah, Spider-Man for PS4, if you haven't played it already, which you probably have, what are you doing? Play it now, and I guarantee you will have a fun time with Spider-Man PS4. So I will see. So that's it. My thoughts and opinions on the game. I loved it. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of the game. Head over to my Twitter, my Instagram. Donate to me on Patreon. I'm gonna try and do some more stuff on the Patreon. I feel like I don't prioritize that enough, but I really should. My other social media, my Instagram, my Twitter, go over there. Do it now. And yeah, I will see you all in the next video. Peace. Another thing I forgot to mention, my next comedy show, the episode 8 one, will be a Q&A. So either head over to my Twitter, ask me some questions on there, or head over to my comment section, which is down below, and ask me some questions down there. And without further ado, peace.